So the word sorcery actually means pharmakeia. The word that is translated sorcery in our English Bibles often makes us think of things like witchcraft or voodoo or things like that. But that's not what the word means. The word that we translate as sorcery is this word, pharmakeia. Pharmakeia. It means pharmaceuticals. It means drugs. It means using drugs to sidestep God, to circumvent the Holy Spirit, to reach into these other dimensions. I mean, yes, you can do sorcery with drugs, and I guess that's where we get it, witch doctors and shaman and all of that, that they use the drugs as, as a form of sorcery. But we've taken it out of context. You don't have to be a shaman or a witch doctor or any of that to practice sorcery. All you have to do is use these drugs to reach into these other dimensions. So it's no coincidence that people on DMT often see all of these creatures that we call cryptids or aliens. Of course, we know who they are. The cryptids, the interdimensionals, the humanoid hybrids, the same way with the aliens. They're demons. People on their DMT trips often see all of the same mythological characters that we see from like the Hindu texts, all of the pagan texts, all of the fallen angels that are bound. They're bound in these dimensions not to, oh, so we won't know anything. They're bound there to protect the human race because they're out to possess us. So that is precisely what we hear from these DMT experiences. And it's even darker on Flakka, the Flakka street drug. That is dark dimension, takes you directly, unleashes that dark dimension, and these people are full on possessed. So I'm gonna play a couple of clips. KJ explains it best, so I'm gonna play him first on DMT. And he'll read some encounters, and he'll tell you about some encounters and experiences on DMT. And hopefully you can see that these are real spiritual experiences with other dimensions.
So back to the connection between DMT, these fallen angels, and these so-called aliens. But all you really need to do if you're interested in this is just look up different people's accounts of their DMT experiences. And inevitably, almost every single one of them match up in one way or another. Constantly they're seeing similar things. So this right here is a really interesting testimony I found about a DMT trip. And again, like I said, I went through many of these, and they all seem to be about the same. This is about a guy and his brother and a few friends, and they took some DMT. And in the past, they said they had seen pyramids, pagan temples, Hindu gods, minotaurs, centaurs, and all sorts of creatures. But in this most recent trip they took together, the first thing he saw was a Cambodian temple, and his friend saw a pyramid with an eye on top and people worshipping it. Another strange effect of DMT was that when he closed his eyes, he could still seem to see his surroundings as if his eyelids were transparent. With DMT, he had out-of-body experiences, he believed. Himself and his friends saw or heard things that they didn't know about until they looked them up later. So they were actually learning things on their DMT trip. For example, before this guy got into Hinduism, which he's currently into now, something said in his head, sounding like a voice, "I am God." And he found out later that this is a phrase that Hindus say. His friend saw the Hindu deity Ganesh and didn't know what it was, but described it perfectly. So after seeing and hearing these things on his DMT trip and then researching it later, it actually got him into worshipping idols, such as Vishnu, and studying the Mahabharata. He thought it was cool, and he felt that all paths led to God anyway. If it weren't for his brother getting smacked by God literally by a golden hand while using DMT, he would have continued doing so. It did help him understand a little bit about the New World Order, like their belief in a so-called Golden Age. He saw parallels to the Bible, like fallen angels and Nephilim. There's even evidence of historic high-tech battles in India on his DMT trips, like radiation and sand fused into glass, as if there were nuclear explosions many, many years ago there. Even in Greek mythology, there are stories of giants and of gods mating with humans. So after he studied all things Illuminati, New Age teachings, the New World Order, sorcery, UFOs, and all this other stuff, he finally came to the conclusion that he was contacting fallen angels, and that he felt this in his DMT trips. he felt the drug DMT was giving him demonic spirits and full access to them, and he was allowing them to have full access to his mind. And it appeared that the enemy can manipulate the mind of a DMT user any way he pleases. So moving on from those experiences, and I think those are very interesting, there is a book called DMT, the Spirit Molecule by Rick Strassman. It's been out there for some time now. And what's interesting is that he calls it the Spirit Molecule. So one doesn't even get past the introduction of the book without realizing a very important piece of the information he is given. And what is it? He admits that he has maintained a relationship lasting decades with the Zen Buddhists and their, quote, supervised drug sessions in a monastery. And in skimming over his book, it's interesting when you get to chapter 13. It's called Through the Veil. The author clearly admits that while reviewing his notes on the various volunteers who have taken this drug in various ways, they've all admitted to having contact with them or with other beings. And he says at least half of these people did so in one form or another. So research subjects use expressions like entities, beings, aliens, guides, and helpers to describe these creatures they were interacting with. The scary part, the quotes of the people describing these beings go like this, that there were these beings, that I was being led, and that they were on me really fast. One person describes tales of the self-transforming machine elves he encountered. Another participant says, I saw such strange dreams, but at the beginning only I saw strange creatures, dwarves or something. They were black and they moved about. I was in a big place and they were hurting me. They were not human. They were horrible. I was living in a world of weird orange people. And it was really strange. There were a lot of elves. They were prankish. They were ornery. They were cruel. Maybe 4 of them appeared at the side of a stretch of interstate highway I travel regularly. They commanded the scene right before my eyes. It was their terrain now. They were about my height. They held up placards showing me these incredible, beautiful, complex, swirling, geometric scenes in them. One of them made it impossible for me to move. There was no issue of control here. They were totally in control of me, and they wanted me to look. I heard giggling. They kept giggling. These elves or creatures were laughing or talking at high-speed volume, and I couldn't understand. At first it was a mandala-like series of visuals. Then an insect-like being thing got right into my face, hovering over me as the drug was going in. This thing sucked me out of my head and into outer space, and it was clearly outer space. It was a black sky with millions of stars. But there was a sinister backdrop, some kind of an alien-type insect, not quite pleasant. It wasn't like we're going to get you. It really felt more like I was being possessed. During the experience, there's a sense of someone or something else that's taking control of you. You're really not quite sure what's happening in there. It's got its own thing, its own flavor, its own visuals. And there were these reptilian beings, too. They were all around me, all these creatures.
A new synthetic killer drug known as Flakka is spreading rapidly across the United States and already causing an epidemic of overdose fatalities and acts of violence.
Talking about Flakka.
Flakka.
The drug is called Flakka.
Some have dubbed it the insanity drug.
And it's everywhere.
It's been described as the scariest drug in the world. More powerful than heroin or cocaine.
This is a synthetic drug that can alter your state of mind, raising excited delirium, body temperature, and literally losing their mind.
They're all experiencing like superhuman kind of strengths.
Or it takes 6 policemen to hold them down. That's a problem.
Psychotic breakdowns, hallucinations,
aggressive, violent behavior,
Cannibalism and self-mutilation.
indiscriminate violence. When Flakka takes over,
We are living in the context of the end of the age. We are a nation under judgment. But you think it's bad. Wait until you see what really bad is.
We are here driving, and there's a guy that jumped on our hood of our car.
Illinois, Ohio, Texas, Kentucky, California, and Florida, especially hard.
Florida is now the epicenter of the outbreak.
There's been many crazy stories of people having unbelievable strength.
Some people would have like superhuman strength. People have taken Flakka, and it's taken 6 police officers to hold them down.
People tearing off their clothes, running around the streets naked.
In Revelation 18, there's a very, very important passage. In that passage, if you read it, you will find very clearly that the kings of the earth and the great merchants of the earth conspire together, And it says they do sorcery, and the word used there is pharmakia, which is the use of drugs to control the activities of the world. And it says through this, they deceive the nations of the earth. So in conclusion to this mass invocation of demonic spirits in people, drugs play a key role in opening portals and contacting the spirit world.
What was going on in your body, in your mind? What was happening to you?
I never experienced anything like that before. I felt that I was possessed, and I couldn't try to stop whatever was in me.
You described this as, you said, was it like hell on the inside or the devil? How did you describe it?
It felt so evil. It felt like the most darkest, evilest thing that is imaginable.
Many of them will see dead bodies that aren't dead, whether it be animals or humans. They can actually feel the body, they can see the body. Others are seeing people following them.
There were visuals that we get that were so grotesque. They're like nothing I could ever even think of, or nothing I've seen in a movie. It felt very demonic, very evil.
The consumption of substances with psychotropic properties are becoming increasingly significant. The impact is already happening in society with the number of people who are succumbing to the spiritual impacts of drug consumption and other kind of occult activity, and as well as the increase in psychotic violence that's occurring.
I think that we're going to see waves of this that are going to be very, very devastating.